All right, well, it looks like these negotiations have begun, according to some sources on the web, between Triple G and Saul Canelo Alvarez. I'm catching a lot of heat for a lot of things I said about this proposed fight, but, it is what it is. None of that will matter if this fight does eventually get signed and it happens in the near future, which it looks like it may just happen. So let's talk about this fight. I'm going to give you my thoughts on this fight. I mentioned Triple G, quick fighter, but not a fast fighter, meaning, he does the right things by shortening up shots, being subtle with his movement, and just seemingly being able to get there before his opponent does because he's anticipating what they're doing. And he's getting inside their combination, shortening up his shot, and he's rolling their combination, rolling their punch, and his shots are getting there first. So he's being quick because of a lot of the movements, the subtle movements, and just being smart in anticipating and just showing great timing in everything he does. And he's very versatile with his attack. And he's great at cutting the ring off. He's just a very, very cerebral assassin type in that ring. He's not just a crude brawler. He's a guy that can really dissect his opponents by reading them and anticipating what they're going to do and just being able to be one or two steps ahead. Canelo has some similarities, but you could argue that Canelo has the faster hands. You could argue that Canelo is right there, or maybe even slightly better in the counterpunching department. But again, Triple G never really has to play that counterpuncher role for long in a fight. He can do it, but primarily he's the guy that's moving forward and putting on some pressure, some intelligent pressure, whereas Canelo likes to be a little bit more methodical and laid back. So I really can't say 100% that Canelo's the better counterpuncher, but he plays that counterpuncher role more. But Canelo has very deceptively fast hands. May not have the quickest feet in the world, but I talked about Canelo earlier in the week on the Ringside Reporter podcast, and I said some things that I think have improved with Canelo because I mentioned Canelo is never going to be that guy who's going to have fast feet. He's never going to be an exceptionally quick guy, and guys who have faster feet than him, he has a hard time cutting the ring out off against them. And what he's doing now is he's basically realizing what he can do well and what he can't do well. And I think he's focusing more on his strengths as opposed to his weaknesses because it's really hard to develop exceptional foot speed if you just don't have that fat twitch muscle fibers and explosiveness in the lower half of your body. It's kind of crazy because we all do have a certain amount of fast twitch muscle fibers and slow twitch muscle fibers, and some of us are gifted with more fast twitch than others. And crazy enough, as this may seem to some, a lot of people have fast twitch fibers in certain areas of their body more so than others. So Canelo just may be that guy who doesn't have a ton of fast twitch muscle fibers in the lower half of his body. As crazy that may seem. But it is what it is. I mean, he's got the quick hands, as I said. So I think Canelo is working on things he can do. Like, I think he's really savvy with those feints that he throws. He's really good at setting traps now. He's showing more patience in the ring. And, he's improving defensively. He's parrying shots better. He's slipping shots better. And when he's throwing those feints, he's actually creeping up and inching up on his opponent and really putting himself in the proper punching range. Whereas before, he didn't have all that mastered. You could see it unfolding and getting better and better with every fight. So, with all that being said, you still have to favor Triple G in this fight. But the longer it takes to make this fight, does it become more competitive and does it help Canelo? I kind of believe it does. Because before, when this fight was being presented and talked about, I would always say, yeah, Triple G will destroy Canelo. He'll walk right through him, with no disrespect to Canelo. That's just what I believed at the time. But now I just have to really analyze what I'm seeing with Canelo, and he is showing me something different. He's showing me improvement every fight. And, he's really making a commitment to develop as a fighter, improve as a fighter. He doesn't want to be stagnant. He's staying active. So he's really, it seems to me that he's been working on his craft. So I think that this fight possibly could be a lot more competitive if it happens in September or early next year or even the middle of next year, as opposed to if it what happened maybe last year. So maybe this fight could possibly go the distance. And what happens if this fight does go the distance? Because we saw the Canelo scorecards. I mean, really? Canelo 4-1, Canelo 3-2, and then one judge had it 3-2 for Khan. So two of those judges had Canelo winning up until the time of the stoppage. And this isn't the only time we've seen, scorecards favor Canelo overwhelmingly when, at least in my opinion, fights have been closer just by me watching them and scoring them myself. And there's been a few occasions where I thought that the fight could have been a draw or could even have been a loss for Canelo. And the scorecards tell me otherwise and tell us otherwise. I mean, he just really gets the benefit of the doubt on these scorecards. So, if this fight does go the distance, will the judges favor Canelo? Will he get the benefit of the doubt once again in the scorecards? Because I'm not going to say it's a dubious move or it's a fixed fight, or I'm not going to put that cloud of controversy over this fight if it happens. But it's something to think about. Maybe the judges are just favoring this style. Maybe they're seeing something in this style. It's the same thing with Manny Pacquiao when he fought Juan Manuel Marquez, those three previous times. The judges just seem to favor that Manny Pacquiao style at that particular time. And, in the third fight, I thought Marquez won. And in the second fight, I thought Marquez won. I thought Pacquiao, won the first fight. And obviously, we know what happened in the fourth. So, it's just very bizarre that Marquez had to knock Pacquiao out to finally get the victory, whereas in three previous fights, he just didn't get the benefit of the doubt. Now, fair enough that those fights were close, but it's totally different when you talk about Canelo because, in that Trout fight, it's Trout won more than 2 rounds in that fight. He won more than 1 round. Same thing with Cotto. Cotto, I gave Cotto 5 rounds in that fight. So, and I had Urislandi Lara beating Canelo. So that's something to really think about and talk about, if this fight goes the distance. And I'm starting to think that there's a chance it could go the distance. I'm not saying that Triple G, won't beat Canelo, but I'm not 100% sure he'll knock him out. There's a good chance he will, but there's also a chance that Canelo may go the distance or go some rounds with Triple G. And if I was to bet this fight, I'm guessing the over-under will be 9.5 rounds. I'd be tempted to take the over in this fight. And I'd be a little weary about just picking Triple G straight up or picking Triple G with the knockout proposition because, if the fight goes the distance, I don't know what the judges are going to score this fight, and I'm not 100% sure he'll stop Canelo either. I mean, Canelo's a big boy, and he's a crafty guy, so I don't know. So as it stands right now, I'm still favoring Triple G to win this fight. I would still pick him to win this fight. But if I was to bet this fight, I would probably take the over. Because if a knockout were to occur, I would say maybe in rounds 10 or 11 it would happen. And Triple G, I think, would pull it out in the later rounds. Sort of like a Martin Murray fight where that fight went some rounds. And even against David Lemieux, David Lemieux lasted 8 rounds. So I think Canelo's all around a better fighter than those guys. So maybe he would last 10 or 11 rounds, and again, I'm very confident the over under would be 9.5. So I would just take the over, just to play it safe. But Triple G is the favorite, should be the favorite. Right now, he is the better fighter overall. Arguably he's the harder puncher, but again, Canelo is no powder puff puncher. I mean, he can crack too. So this is an interesting fight because I don't think Canelo will have to really do a lot of searching in this fight. I think Triple G will come to him, so there will be some counter punching opportunities available to him. And you have to ask yourself, if Triple G decides to play around in this fight and wants to feel Canelo's power like he's done in other fights, what's going to happen if he decides to do that and Canelo actually hurts him? So Triple G is the favorite, as well as he should be, and I would pick him, but I'm not as sure as I was 8 months ago, or a year ago, or even 6 months ago. I just have to accept the fact that Canelo is getting better. He's continuing to improve, and he's a legitimate force to be reckoned with. All right, guys. Those are just my thoughts. I'm sure many of you guys are going to disagree, and probably a lot of you guys will blast me in this comment section, but it is what it is. Beeb is out, and as always, thank you so much for watching. Peace.